Module 1, Lesson 19, How to Avoid Using Exposure Compensation.
In the last few lessons we looked at exposure compensation, and in this lesson I'll teach you some techniques about how you can avoid having to use it.
By choosing the right location to take your photos and composing them carefully, you can avoid using exposure compensation. The reason your camera will not always give you a good exposure is because the camera has a limited ability to record detail in the bright and the dark areas. This is most noticeable in situations where the light is bright and strong and contrast is high, like in the middle of the day on a sunny day. Our eyes are able to see more detail in the bright and dark areas of a scene than our cameras are. Our cameras are more limited and cannot record such a wide range of light. Cloudy days and areas where the light is soft and flat, it's easier to get a well-exposed photograph without having to dial in exposure compensation. When you're taking photos, pay attention to the contrast range in your composition. The more even the light and tones are, the less you'll need to have to use exposure compensation. Taking photos in bright light, try and avoid including any areas of dark shadow. When you're taking photos in the shade, avoid including any bright areas in your composition. Making these choices about how you compose your photos will help you avoid having to use exposure compensation. Your photos will be more evenly exposed because the tone range in them is narrower. Module 1, Photography Course Challenge number 19. The aim of this challenge is to help you gain a better understanding of how your camera manages contrast in a scene and why a more evenly toned composition will help you avoid having to use exposure compensation. Photograph a subject that's in the shade and where the whole of your composition is in the shade. Next, photograph a subject that's in the sun and where the whole of your composition is in the sun.
So here I have my subject completely in the shade, so the light is very even. So here I've got my pot plants in the sun to photograph, and the background and the subjects are both in the sun. So again, we are avoiding using exposure compensation on this photo.
When your subject and your background are affected by the same light, your camera should have no trouble making a series of well-exposed photos. Compare the two types of result, taking note especially of the shadow areas. Using any of the auto or semi-auto exposure modes, your camera will not always make the right calculation to expose your photos the way you want. A lot of the time though, you'll not have a problem and will not need to use exposure compensation. An even better method of exposure is to use manual mode. I'll introduce you to using this mode in the next lesson. It's also the topic of the whole of Module 5 and much of what I teach in later lessons after I've taught more about your camera, lenses and composition. Once you've taken the photos and looked at them on your computer, don't forget to save some of your best photos in your favourites folder.
I hope you're getting a real feel for your camera and how it captures images in different types of light using the different exposure modes. In this next series of lessons, you'll start to learn more about the creative control you can have on your camera when you use manual mode.
Key points from this lesson are: location and lighting can help avoid the need for using exposure compensation. When contrast is low, using exposure compensation is not usually necessary.